Richard is going to come and give us an overview of the G by E by M work at Wageningen. So, Richard, we'll hand it over to you. And Martin, did he turn up? Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to give a very short presentation and talk a little bit about how these elements of genotype, environment, and management weave together in Wageningen. And I have to say, it's absolutely fantastic that within this group, I don't have to explain that in a complicated system, the role of management is quite important. And for today, that's me. So I'm the Managing Director of Plant Sciences. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what we do here in Wageningen, and I think how really we see at the core of everything we do these components, and addressing what you directly said, how we deal with that enormous complexity that comes out of trying to adapt plants to dynamic environments. So my background actually is a little bit in this field. I worked for many years trying to combine molecular biology, bioinformatics, and statistical genetics to develop more resilient crops, particularly in the area of disease resistance. So it's really great that such a fantastic program has been put together. So thanks very much for the opportunity. Just maybe to tell you a little bit about Wageningen, I think our mission kind of sums it up, really, to explore the potential of nature to improve the quality of life. And I think in that statement, what we really see is that fundamentally, to make an impact on the world, to address the big societal challenges that we have, we need enormous disciplinary expertise. I think Fred has just given an example of that. But really, I think it's this balance between exploration, having disciplinary strength, combining our skills together, then to look at some of the challenges that we face within the agricultural sector and the food system as a whole. And I think that the topic that we're talking about today really goes and touches on all of the major themes that run throughout our whole university and research organisation. So, when you think about the work that we do here in Wageningen, we describe it in a thematic way. We're looking at sustainable food systems, we're looking at biodiversity and resilient ecosystems, we're looking at human and animal health, climate change, how we transition to a bio-based and circular society, and considerations around sustainable water and land use. And then this area either is driven by, in climate change, or directly affects many of these larger challenges that we have in society. And so I think it's very nice to think and reflect on where exactly our contributions are, and how, when we're developing all the tools that we're going to hear about over the next few days, where exactly that impinges on these big challenges, say reversing biodiversity loss, or making sure that we have a much more balanced and sustainable use of land and water. Without equations, I think the big questions that I see when I looked at the abstract book running through this conference are precisely what Fred has just outlined in such a nice way. How can we harness the enormous amount of information that we have now at our fingertips to design, rationally design and deploy better varieties and sustainable systems? Do we know what we need to do in order to achieve that? And what sort of scales do we need to work at? Fred's just really nicely outlined, you don't need all of the information to answer all of the questions, but at what level of information content do we need to be operating in order to get that insight, and how do we partition that out into so that it can be explanatory and predictive? So I think in plant sciences, we sort of have that at our core, and what we try and do to enable that is a few things. We try and create critical mass in research areas and expertise, for example, in statistics, but also in many other fields. It's really great that in plant sciences, not only do we have applied statistics, applied mathematics, but we also have a new chair group in artificial intelligence. We have bioinformatics, but we also have plant physiology, entomology, plant breeding, and so on and so forth. So we really try and create that critical mass of people in order to then start to explore some of these complex questions. We also try very hard to get the best possible facilities available in order that we can get the kind of measurements that you need to have in order to build the appropriate models at the appropriate scale. And I think one of the emergent properties of doing those things is that you can really, in a way that in many places you can't, bring together multidisciplinary teams. And we do that through our graduate schools, but we also do it through other collaborative networks as well. And then there, of course, is that balance of asking fundamental discovery-oriented questions and then thinking about how those are combined into solutions. And of course, we don't do that alone. We do that in partnership. And I think you see that again in this conference over the next few days. When I think about our facilities, I hope you might have the time during the visit to learn about the National Eco-Phenotyping Centre that is partly here in Wageningen. 3 of the 6 modules of this very advanced phenotyping facility are present in Wageningen, the field modules and some of the larger scale automated glasshouse and in-depth trait phenotyping is here. The other 3 modules are with our partner organisation in Utrecht, but this is a national resource available to everyone to access. I think also really important to note is that, you know, as plant scientists, we have many sites around the country. We aren't just based in Wageningen. And we work very much on the field, practically with farmers, with other partners, exploring what new growing systems we can develop. Because ultimately, any variety development process has to sit within a growing system. And that is, you know, as we talked about in terms of management, thinking about those systems, the integration of new technologies, the kind of services that they have to deliver, not just yield, but also, you know, contributions to ecosystem services, contributions to you know, landscape level properties. All of those things, I think we can explore throughout our wide network of field stations that we have around the country, and of course with our partners more broadly. And this concept of farm of the future is a really good example of how we can stack different technologies together in order to explore what new systems will bring. And that can, of course, be informed by modelling as well. Martin's going to talk about this much more, I think, but I think it's also important to note that within the landscape in the Netherlands, there is a really vibrant community of plant scientists, and there is a lot of support for development of very ambitious new programs. One of these is GxExM. This is a new 10-year program that combines that discovery element and the application together, and again is led by partners all around the Netherlands, many of whom are here in the next few days presenting, I've seen. But a big contribution of that is, of course, from Wageningen. And there, the challenge is exactly as I've sort of outlined. It's how do we make sure that we prepare the varieties, the plants that we're developing to cope with more variable weather conditions that are coming as a result of climate change. And there, what level of information do we need to be sitting at? Do we need full molecular information on all traits? What do we need to do in order to have that more rational design approach to plants? And all of that is contained within this program, running from technology readiness levels from the discovery to the application over the next decade. Fred, this is in the booklet. We need the collaboration between statisticians, mathematicians, quantitative geneticists, plant breeders, plant physiologists, and nowadays AI experts. That's what Fred says in the booklet. I would also say we also need molecular biologists, bioinformaticists, crop modelers, engineers, and it doesn't stop there. We also need to make sure that we think about the social elements as well, and who we're bringing along in the agricultural transitions. And so we have, again, big programs in the Netherlands where we're looking at how do you start to actually quantify and deploy regenerative farming practices. And there's a lot of, obviously, research then going underneath that. Again, a very large program saying, you know, how do we start to get to a point where the basket of outputs from our farming systems aren't just yield, but all of those externality costs start to be integrated. We also, you know, need modelling. We need forecasting. We need to use climate change models to simulate forward and ask what kind of systems do we expect to see in different areas of the world, and how do we adapt our crops to what is coming. We need to understand communities of practice. We need to understand how technology and society mix together. And therefore, I think it's so important that in Wageningen we have a very large social sciences department that works in collaboration with plant sciences in order to understand exactly how we can bring about transitions on the ground. So just to sum up, I think Wageningen as an approach, plant sciences is of course nested within that, but we see that there aren't any one-dimensional solutions to the challenges we face. We need a multidisciplinary approach. We need collaboration between discovery scientists and applied scientists and other actors in the business community and, of course, around the world. So I will stop there. This is my last slide, but I really didn't want to waste the opportunity to say that we have a couple of key positions that we're looking for in our organization. We have a chair of plant breeding. The vacancy actually formally shut a couple of days ago, but I've just had it reopened for a few more days because you're all here. And if you're interested, I think really do get in touch with Edgar or send Fred an email. He'll send you to me or Edgar, and we can accept your application there. And by about the summer of 2025, we'll be opening the vacancy for a new chair of applied statistics for the end of the following year. And so again, if you're interested there, please do talk to Fred about that. So with that, enjoy the conference. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And from Fred's perspective, phenotyping is only an additional characteristic you're looking for based on your quote, yeah? For a plant breeding chair. So don't worry about that. If you don't have expertise in phenotyping, you can go straight without that. Anyway, thank you very much for that. That's a wonderful overview. It's really great to get an understanding of all of the things that are going here. And also, it's a very live, growing community as you're bringing on new skills and teams. So it's really good. Quick question, if anybody wants to ask something specific about the Wageningen overview before we go to the presentation from Martin.